conservatives converged.
Good morning, Patriots!
Thousands of activists descend upon Washington, D.C. for their annual meeting, this time with a Republican in the White House. We have complete coverage. Kellyanne Conway.
You don't need to feel hopeless and doomed, and there's always the promise of tomorrow.
My personal one-on-one interview with the White House counselor on faith, family, and working at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Political firestorm. A court in the Philippines orders a vocal critic of the president arrested on drug charges. And helping struggling businesses. The Vatican lends a helping hand in central Italy, following a series of devastating earthquakes. On EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, February 23rd, 2017. Good evening from Washington, D.C., and thank you to those of you joining us from around the world for news from a Catholic perspective. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Conservatives riding high on a Trump victory gather to shape the future of the movement. Healthcare, tax reform, and immigration are just a few of the big topics being discussed. Wyatt Goolsbee joins us from CPAC, the annual Conservative Political Action Conference being held just outside of Washington, D.C. Wyatt.
Lauren, this first full day at CPAC is jam-packed with big names fresh off the White House win. Speakers today included Kellyanne Conway and Steve Bannon, all touting the conservative principles that helped Trump get elected and that they promised to defend.
We have a team that's just grinding it through on what President Donald Trump promised the American people. And the mainstream media better understand something. All of those promises are going to be implemented.
Some conservatives still have nagging doubts about President Trump, even as they cheer his early actions. But here, crowds are enthusiastic about America's new commander-in-chief. Baptist pastor William Temple, dressed as a founding father, believes his prayers were answered Election Day.
I realized God knew that we had to have somebody like a Trump who's not afraid of the press, who's willing to smack him upside the head if he needs to. They still aren't over it.
Bashing the media was a popular theme today. Steve Bannon and Chief of Staff Reince Priebus also slamming coverage of the Trump election and his first days in office. Lauren?
Wyatt, Reince Priebus and Steve Bannon don't often appear side by side. Why do you think they were there together today?
Lauren, some see their joint appearance as a political statement, really. There have been reports that the two don't get along and have competing agendas within the White House. So it looks like their Q&A session today was an effort to show they're still on the same page. One other note, Lauren, that we want to keep in mind is that tonight, Mike Pence, the vice president, will speak, and it all leads up to tomorrow morning when President Donald Trump will speak at 10 a.m. Eastern. Lauren?
Thank you, Wyatt Goolsbee. White House counselor Kellyanne Conway took to the stage thanking conservatives for helping elect President Donald Trump, and she praises her boss for his support of women. She told the crowd in her own life she rejects feminist labels because they don't fit.
It's difficult for me to call myself a feminist in the classic sense because it seems to be very anti-male, and it certainly is very pro-abortion in this context. And I'm neither anti-male or pro-abortion.
She also talked about her strong family upbringing, mostly by women who put God first in their lives. Afterward, we sat down in a messy back room for an in-depth conversation with her about her faith and balancing family and work life. This is part one of that conversation.
Talk to me a little bit about your Catholic faith. We know what a town Washington can be and how difficult it can be, and everybody's me, and out for themselves. What do you do to combat that?
My Catholic faith has just always been completely interwoven with who I am, what I believe, what I strive to do, what I don't do when no one's looking. And I'm a product of Catholic schools, which I thought were quite remarkable, from kindergarten through 12th grade in the same school, daughter of a single mom, which was very rare in the 1970s.
That must have been difficult.
Well, I really didn't notice because I had this huge family, great support. My mother and her 3 sisters and my grandmother and my uncle through marriage, a lot of strong male role models throughout my family and extended family and friends. So, and our faith just was always our anchor, and it kept us very grounded, and it kept us knowing that on the one hand, Lauren, there's always something bigger than you out there, God. And on the other hand, you don't need to feel hopeless and doomed, and there's always the promise of tomorrow, and you just have that faith. It also makes you, especially now in this job, in this town, makes me very impervious to the naysayers and critics. It really helps you to steel, S-T-E-E-L, yourself against the negativity, the criticism, the constant deluge of people trying to tear you down.
That happened to you this week with CNN and a negative report about you having to stay off the air. You're a mom of 4. You have an amazingly difficult job, and you're moving. So I think that the pressure is really on. People need to understand that. Is that right?
Well, yes, but in addition, I'm also doing many things at the White House that don't include going on TV. If I wanted to go on TV, I would have stayed out of the White House, made a lot of money, and gone on TV. The president has asked me and other members of his senior team to do any number of different tasks and assume different responsibilities. And I do have to say, as somebody who doesn't consider herself a feminist and doesn't run around screaming sexism, it is curious that certain questions are never asked of my male colleagues. The idea that people who have never been in a White House, let alone this White House, have a clue as to what's going on. But it also doesn't matter. And here's why it doesn't matter. What matters is what President Trump does for America. And he will make good on these promises. He already is. He's a man of impact, a man of action.
Do you talk about your faith at work? As a reporter, I never did growing up in the mainstream media. Now I can, and it's such a joy. Is it something that you feel free to talk about?
Yes, I do. And I am surrounded by people of different faiths at the White House and in our larger work within the community, the public policy community. And everybody feels very free, I would think, or could talk about their faith. I have Jewish colleagues who observe the Sabbath every Friday, and we're all very aware that they are unavailable to us on Saturdays, and good for them. I think that's a beautiful expression of faith. And there are those of us who, I sometimes with Sean Spicer and I found ourselves at the same church, at the same Mass recently, coincidentally, after Sunday show appearances. And he said, we went on the Sunday shows, we need to cleanse ourselves. And we sat together and worshiped together, which is very special. But look, a faith conversation is important because if you don't talk about faith, where sparingly or as you feel is necessary, then religious liberty will be that much more diminished. And religious liberty and God in the public square, or God in everyday conversation, or who you are as an individual, how your faith motivates you, whatever that faith is, Lauren, then that will be that much more diminished, if not denied.
And faith and policy are an interesting intersection. Is that something that's talked about in high-level meetings?
Well, the intersection of faith and policy is so different than the separation of church and state. And I want to make that clear so that people aren't conflating the two. Folks are motivated by this country is founded on religious freedom. And we have God mentioned in our Pledge of Allegiance, on our currency, and in our oaths of office, etc. And so I think trying to either insidiously or overtly purge God from our lexicon and from our consideration set, as has been done by different people over different times, is unfortunate, and it's also antithetical to who this country is. We are a pluralistic country, and I respect the fact that many Americans don't believe in God or don't subscribe to a formal religion, a doctrinal religion. That's their right as well. But I also don't want them interfering in my right to practice my religion or to raise my children as I would like to in that faith.
We'll have more of my interview with Kellyanne Conway tomorrow. The White House reverses guidelines implemented by President Obama that allowed transgender students to use the bathroom of their choice. Press Secretary Sean Spicer says the 1972 Title IX law was never meant to settle the transgender debate.
It's incumbent upon us to actually follow the law and to recognize that Title IX never talked about this. It was enacted in 1972. There was no discussion of this back then, and to assume certain elements of the law were thought of back then with respect to this would be completely preposterous.
It will now be up to states and school districts to interpret whether federal sex discrimination laws extend to gender identity. The Arkansas Supreme Court strikes down a city ordinance banning gay and transgender discrimination. Justices say a state law calls for uniform anti-discrimination measures across Arkansas. The court stopped short of saying whether that 2015 law is constitutional. Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly says there will be no mass deportations while enforcing President Trump's immigration crackdown. The statement comes as Kelly and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visit Mexico City. Secretary Tillerson says he's committed to keeping the border safe.
We also reiterated our joint commitment to maintaining law and order along our shared border by stopping potential terrorists and dismantling the transnational criminal networks moving drugs and people into the United States.
The U.S. Secretary say making sure immigration is done legally will occur in close coordination with the Mexican government. Other news we are covering in today's world. Iraqi forces engage in a fierce battle with ISIS militants. They took control of the runway at the airport in Mosul and fought their way into a military base. The advance is part of a major assault to drive ISIS out of the western half of Iraq's second largest city. Troops have already liberated the eastern side. In the Philippines, a court issues an arrest warrant for a senator who has been one of the most vocal critics of the country's president. Senator Leila El Lima is charged with receiving bribes from detained drug lords. She denies the charges, claiming President Rodrigo Duterte is trying to muzzle critics of his drug crackdown. Duterte has pledged to eradicate drugs in the Philippines by killing tens of thousands of drug dealers and users. Pope Francis welcomes an old friend to the Vatican today. Rabbi Abraham Skorka from the Pope's native Argentina met with the Holy Father along with a delegation of Jewish leaders. The group is preparing a new edition of the Torah, the 5 books of the Old Testament. Pope Francis told the guests the Torah connects the Jewish and Christian communities. This Sunday, the Holy Father will make a historic visit to Rome's main Anglican church. He's the first pontiff to visit an Anglican church in his own diocese as the Bishop of Rome. Mary Shovlin, our Vatican correspondent, has more.
Lauren, this visit is the fruit of over a century of dialogue with the Church of England. It comes as the Anglican community celebrates the 200th anniversary of the foundation of their parish, All Saints Church, here in the heart of Rome. I asked the Anglican pastor of the parish what made this Sunday's meeting possible.
I think what has changed to enable the visit of Pope Francis to an Anglican church is probably the fact that we've got Pope Francis, because I think he really very determinedly seeks to exhibit, to show the way in which he's the Bishop of Rome and how that can be celebrated by other Christians who are present in Rome.
Reverend Boardman also says the meeting shows Anglicans are serious about recognizing the Pope as the leader of Christendom in some way. But the Catholic and Anglican churches split in the 16th century when King Henry VIII declared himself the head of the Church of England. He outlawed Catholicism, and the churches have remained separate ever since. Sunday's event will include a choral liturgy. The Holy Father will deliver a homily, and afterwards he will answer questions from members of the congregation. Mary Shovlin in Rome, EWTN News Nightly.
The Vatican is helping Italian shops struggling to recover from earthquakes. The Holy Father's chief almsgiver headed out on a shopping spree, buying prosciutto, cheese, and produce to support local business owners. The food will be donated to Roman soup kitchens. A series of powerful earthquakes rocked central Italy, driving thousands of people from their homes and devastating the local economy. Coming up, my one-on-one conversation with Governor Sam Brownback of Kansas. And the Holy Father warns against leading a double life. His advice to avoid scandal. The governor of Wisconsin encourages President Trump and conservatives to go big and go bold. Scott Walker says he stood up to the unions. Now he wants the president to, quote, do what you said you were going to do. Walker is one of the Republican governors who wants to shift the balance of power away from the federal government back to the states.
Would you rather send it to Washington where you get pennies on the dollar back and very little performance? Or would you rather keep it back in your communities where you can take care of the needy the way you see fit in your state and not have the federal government dictate it?
Walker joined a group of governors on stage at CPAC, the conservative conference. He says the federal government should handle the military, Social Security, and Medicare, but that's about it. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback is also at today's conservative conference. He told me about his mission to protect life. Governor Sam Brownback of Kansas joins me now. Governor, thank you so much for coming.
Happy to do it. And I love the station. EWTN, this is great news. This is news as it ought to be, and it's encouraging. Thank you guys for having a station.
We're going to put you on the promo. Is that all right?
Do it. I love this because everybody else is so down as this and that problem.
And we're about life.
We're about life and joy and the way life ought to be lived.
Speaking of life, let's talk about what you're doing in Kansas to protect the unborn.
Well, I've signed 17 pro-life bills. We are, I believe, the most pro-life state in America for as far as the laws that we've had, we've passed. We've passed virtually every one we can think of. And I'm pushing that now nationally, saying a lot of other states need to do this sort of thing. Ban sex selection abortion, ban pain-capable abortion, ban dismemberment abortion, defund Planned Parenthood. And we need to do that at the federal level. And on top of all that, we really have to have Gorsuch approved for the Supreme Court. And Roe v. Wade needs to be repealed. Past time.
Why is it so important to do it now?
You've got the alignment that you can do it. And these things are very unusual, and they don't last very long.
The fact that we have a Republican in the White House, you have a Republican Congress, you have a Republican Senate.
You just don't get that. And politics is really about seizing your moment, because you can wander in the wilderness for a long time. And your folks that elected you got you there on a series of things that they thought you might be able to get done. And if you can get it done, you need to get it done. And they'll say, okay, now I'm going to stick with you. You don't get it done, they'll walk from you.
That's right. Tell me about the letter that you wrote. You wrote it to Speaker Ryan, you wrote it to Mitch McConnell, and to President Trump, talking about the leaders need to grasp the opportunity to proclaim and protect the dignity of life. Why did you feel compelled to write that letter?
The first year of a new administration is precious ground, because that is the year you've got your most political capital available, and it's the time that you really have to seize it. But there's a limited agenda. You can only do so many things. And what I wanted to do was to get the life agenda into that piece in the first year while you've got the momentum and the ability to deliver on it. We need to do it. And the things I listed are ones they need to happen nationally.
Do you think it will happen?
I think pieces of it will happen. And I don't think it will happen. I think it'll be positive with the public. The public is pro-life. Now, they'll say, well, I want this abortion restriction, but they don't overall like it.
Nobody wants an abortion culture.
No, and then when they talk about dismemberment abortion or sex selection abortion, almost everybody goes,
what is that?
I don't want sex selection abortion. If they know about it. Now, most people will kind of, I don't even really want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. But if you put it in front of them, like partial birth abortion, and they stare at it and they have to decide on it, they'll go, this is ugly. Dismemberment abortion sounds like it's medieval. You know, you're pulling this baby apart, and then that's horrible. People don't want that.
You've been fighting this battle on the state level for a very long time. Do you think now other states with such a friendly atmosphere, pro-life atmosphere in national politics will be able to also have the successes that you have been able to have?
I do, and I believe their public will be appreciative of it as well. Social issues are tough issues because there's so much difficulty, and in a lot of places, the Judeo-Christian ethic that the country was built upon has been reduced. But people are with us on life, and I think they can be successful, and I think the public will stay with it. But you need to explain it. Why are we for life? Why do we support a culture of life? Well, okay, I'm for life, but why? Well, because there's a dignity, because there's a beauty in every human at every stage in life. And if you destroy the young person, you don't get to be an older person. You destroy him in the womb, you don't get, if Mother Teresa is killed in the womb, she doesn't become Mother Teresa.
Governor Sam Brownback, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Don't live a double life. That was the Pope's message during his homily this morning.
Ma la mia vita non è cristiana.
The Pope says it's not enough to say you're Catholic and attend Mass if you don't live a Christian life outside of church. The Holy Father says Jesus' response to people living a double life will be, I don't know you. But he said the Lord is all forgiving. Up next, a pro-abortion group pushes for easier access to an abortion-inducing pill. And my conversation with a pro-life activist empowering women all across the country to keep their babies. A group of doctors and health experts are calling for the abortion pill to be made available in pharmacies across the U.S. Currently, the pill is only available in clinics, hospitals, and doctors' offices. It accounts for 22% of abortions in 2013 and is used to end early pregnancies. Pro-life organizations reject the appeal. Today's Conservative Political Action Conference made it a point to support life, even airing a promotional video in between discussions.
Life is amazing. That's why we're pro-life. But what does that even mean? Well, to be pro means to be for something. So sure, we're for life. We're for a lot of things. We're for women, for moms, for dads, for families.
It was produced by Save the Storks, a group that seeks to help pregnant women. Tell me, you started Storks in a van. What was that about?
Yes, so we started in the Bronx in New York City. Our founder was there on a trip observing sidewalk counselors outside an abortion clinic, and this lady approached him and said, "I'm here for my appointment." And he said, "Well, I don't work with this clinic, but I'm here with these people. Would you like a free ultrasound?" And to his shock and amazement, she said yes. So we walked her over to the van, and 20 minutes later, as she was getting out, she was plugging in numbers to her phone, and he said, "Who are you calling?" And she said, "I'm calling my mom to tell her that she's going to be a grandmother."
Wow, that is powerful. The mobile centers travel all across the United States providing these services to women. What do you tell women, or what do they tell you about the challenges that they face?
So a lot of the women we see face financial challenges. They don't think they can afford a child. Many of them already have a child and don't think they can afford another one. Many of them feel extreme pressure from the people in their lives that are supposed to be there to support them to actually abort because they don't think they can do it.
What's the most, how do you reach these people? How do you communicate to them?
So we have the units right outside an abortion clinic. We're not there picketing. We're offering a free service. And oftentimes that's appealing to women. They want to see the ultrasound. They want to have that experience. Oftentimes when they walk into the Stork bus, it's the nicest place they've ever been. And so they walk in, they have the free ultrasound, and 4 out of 5 of those women choose life after seeing the life of their baby on the screen.
How big are you? How big is an operation?
So we have 33 units on the road right now. We're contracted with another 50, and we're expecting, or with 50 total, and we're expecting to sign 12 more contracts this year.
And where does your funding come from?
We are supported by donors all over the country who partner with us at $30 a month, some more, some less, but that's about the average, because we've taken the cost of the unit, divided it by the number of lives we think can be saved in 2 years, and that's what it comes out to.
That's amazing. The Teen Vogue, I don't know, did you see this article in Teen Vogue?
I did.
It was a very sort of off-the-cuff article about how you should comfort your teen friend who had an abortion. And it was all things like, buy them a heating pad, get them a Ruth Bader Ginsburg coloring book. How do you and your organization combat these media messages?
So the media has told us for over 40 years that abortion is good for women and that it helps women. But the abortion industry is based on a lie. NARAL made up the numbers in the beginning. Roe v. Wade was based on a lie. And so we're combating that messaging by telling the stories of women who have had abortions. We receive those stories on a weekly and sometimes daily basis of women saying, "That's not my story. The media narrative doesn't accurately portray." And we have dozens and hundreds and thousands of these stories of women who say, "Abortion doesn't empower me. I have all these health risks now associated with the abortion. I'm not able to have kids. I suffer from depression." It's not good for women. So we tell those stories.
Thank you so much. Marcy Little with Save the Storks.
Thank you.
That does it for us this evening. For all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, to all of you around the world, I'm Lauren Ashburn. And don't forget, you can see every broadcast of the show on EWTN's YouTube channel. I'll see you again tomorrow with part 2 of my Kellyanne Conway interview about her Catholic faith. Good night, and God bless.